Episode 26.
Podcast number, who gives a fuck? Talking about Cycle 3 today, folks.
Kiss your butt lips together.
Little butt kisses.
Episode 26 of the Misfit. Episode 26 of the Misfit podcast.
Misfit.
Drew, Seth, Sherb, Gabe, talking about Cycle 3. If you're on iTunes and you have no fucking clue what Cycle 3 means, head to misfitathletics.com to find out. You guys ready to chat?
Let's do it.
How you
Yeah.
feeling, Sherb?
Feel great.
Is your neck a little red? You feeling a little sassy this morning?
Stop picking on my neck. It's 2 days in a row
It's
now.
going to get more red now because you're on camera.
If you're on iTunes, just imagine he is wearing a crop top today. I don't know why he chose that, but
He's a giant orange guy with a red neck.
Not orange.
Before we get started, we're going to go over a couple of housekeeping items. For those of you who are wondering where the hell all our new gear is, we had to make a new logo for legal reasons, and that means two things. First, if you are looking to secure your original logo gear, you don't have much time left. Once this gear is gone, it's gone forever. It will never be remade. So if you want to be considered an OG Misfit, you're going to have to get your hands on some of the older gear. What that also means is some new cool looking stuff will be trickled out throughout the winter. That's really where you're gonna see the new logo come out. We also have a new store and a new web address. So that is sharpentheaxecode.com. For those of you that refuse, like back in the day, to not type in -misfittraining.com, Misfit gear will still direct to Sharpen the Axe Co., but there is a new web address. The final camp of 2016 is at CrossFit Edo in Houston, Texas, December 9th through December 11th. Filling up fast. Going to be a pretty similar crew of all-stars that you guys saw all over the social media from CrossFit Clue. Should be a good time. We are going to be restructuring the tier system on our website. Plus, Pro, Complete, maybe some extra stuff in there. If you would like any say in that, any say in what goes where, I don't think this should be here, this should be that, you can head to the About tab on our website, click Contact, and give us your feedback. Because as of January 2nd, we're looking to change some of that stuff. So if you feel strongly about something that should be somewhere, feel free to shoot us a message. And if you're just excited to hear about some of the new stuff we got, keep your eye out for it.
and we're changing it to improve it for you guys. We're not trying to figure out a new money-making scheme. We want to make sure that the things we write and create are being seen by the biggest audience we can while still maintaining what it is that we have to do year-round. So,
And I mean, most of it is based on feedback already.
Right.
It's based on what you guys put online. It's based on what you guys tell us at camps. So if you have not given us any feedback and you'd like to, feel free to do that. And then one thing that I know me and Sherb are really excited about is we're going to be adding a part to the website called Coach's Corner, which is for our affiliate programming clients. So if between now and the beginning of Cycle 4, you sign up for affiliate programming or you already have affiliate programming, you are going to have exclusive access to a place on the website that is for coaching, mostly at the affiliate level. It's something that we feel really strongly about, creating the base of our community. And instead of just throwing programming out there like we used to do with the competitive athletes, we are now going to try and coach the coaches so that the real meaning of the programming can really make its way out there. So something to keep your eye on. And last but definitely not least, mark your calendars for mock regionals, December 2nd through December 4th.
Booyah.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we will be simulating regionals style workouts to see where you guys are at heading into Cycle 4. Compete against some of the best athletes in the world from the comfort of your own gym.
I'll make sure the workouts are really comfortable, too, for everybody.
I've got a
Please
feeling.
more running outside in December. I can't wait.
I got a feeling they're going to be really good. So
Yeah.
keep your eye out for that. Keep your eye out for signups. Every year there's usually a little bit bigger bounty on the Misfit athletes' heads. So if you think you can beat our athletes, we'll pay you a little bit more money. So keep your eye out for that.
Here's your chance, Nate. Here's your chance.
Wow. Calling him right out.
Now it's time to actually talk about Cycle 3. Seth's going to get us started with talking about warm-ups, Metcons, intervals, the stuff that is really going to start to matter more and more and more as we get further on.
So it's no secret. Everyone knows my least favorite thing to write for you guys is the warm-ups. So I've kind of come up with a couple things I want to try this cycle. One of them will be, kind of written as the warm-up that you guys have expected to see each day. It's going to feature a lot of midline work and rep accumulation because the focus of the cycle is going to be more on the muscular endurance bias side of things as far as Metcons and intervals will go, as you'll hear soon. So you'll be doing a lot of the rep accumulation style warm-ups. And again, some of the movements will be more midline work. So we'll see kind of sets of GHD sit-ups. We'll see maybe longer handstand walks. We'll see some overhead lunges or overhead walks, things that just start to kind of get everything firing. And not only will it work the midline, you also have to start turning on your posterior chain to keep everything nice and tight. So hopefully that'll work as a good warm-up for you guys. The big feature of the warm-up, though, for Cycle 3 is something I guess I'm just kind of calling 50 days of flossing. So most of you are probably pretty aware of Voodoo Floss and at least somewhat how it's used and where it should be used. I'm going to, each working training day, I'm going to assign an area of the body to be flossed that should coincide with some of the things you're doing in your training. And hopefully you guys will learn how to floss the area and do it regularly. And we're going to go for 50 days in a row. So on rest days, it'll be up to you to kind of floss the problem areas, whether you have, Achilles and ankle issues, whether you got quad issues, shoulder issues, tennis elbow, whatever, wrist issues. There are always areas you can floss and see significant, drastic, quick improvement by doing so. So we'll probably do some sort of demo stuff. We'll probably shoot some video, some media on ideas with surrounding flossing. And we just hope that you guys can commit to the 50 days of flossing at least something other than your teeth in a row. And then...
Who does that?
Yeah. I mean,
Jordan.
I do.
Jordan loves to floss.
Yes. I'm not even going to get into that. So hopefully 50 days in a row if you guys commit to it. And then it'll build kind of a habit for you guys. And then you probably won't ever leave the house without a couple floss bands with you. So that's my thought. So I'm more focusing on that with the warm-ups. The warm-ups themselves will be simple and to the point. The major emphasis will be on the flossing, and hopefully you guys learn how to use it appropriately.
The red band from Rogue Fitness.
Yes.
I'm just going to throw that out there because other companies have tried to make it. We've ordered it because it costs less, and it sucks.
It's terrible.
The black bands are fine. They're very durable. They work well, but they don't provide the same level of compression that you get with the red band. So we get no money from this. We have no affiliation with Rogue Fitness. Awesome product. Buy the red bands from Rogue Fitness. You'll be happy you did.
I'm pumped to see what this does for people because it really kind of shocks me when we go to camps and people are like, what is floss? I've never heard of that. Don't do that.
I mean, that's sort of
something we do every day here. And
that's what spawned the idea for me is like we teach it and there's always half the people at camp that have never even had their shoulder floss before. And we put it on, they're like, wow, that's amazing. It's like, wait, where the fuck have you been the last 3 years?
It feels the same way as when they first started doing mobility wall, and it was like, here's a lacrosse ball, try this. And now it's like, this is the next step. Like, this is as effective, if not more effective, than the lacrosse ball. So.
Yeah, it's the simplest. I mean, I'm a 30-year-old guy who feels like he's 50 or 60 already, and it's the simplest fix for me to get going no matter what it is that's ailing me. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. And honestly, this will just kind of keep me accountable too, because if I'm posting it, I'll typically floss with, all the people are doing the same thing. So maybe it'll help me out at the same time. But that's going to be the focus. We'll try to get some sort of media stuff out there because if I say floss your hips and you start wrapping the band around your waist, we're going to have a problem. So hopefully we can.
Hopefully you do the hula dance like that too while you're wrapping it.
And I don't know if this is true or not, but I assume on YouTube, K-Star probably has old mobility WOD videos that feature flossing.
Sure.
A million of them.
Okay, so that would be a place to go to start before we put anything out there. YouTube, K-Star's old YouTube channel, his old videos before he started monetizing the site. Should be free flossing demos for just about every part of your body out there. Good place to start.
What does Ben Greenfield call it? Milking?
Milking tissues.
That's what he calls it?
Yeah.
One thing though,
milk your hamstring.
Seth, you got to be careful though when you Google flossing your elbow or whatever, because there are a lot of people that put out videos on flossing different areas, and I think they neglect a lot of kind of important things.
Yeah, it's Mobility WOD's YouTube channel.
So.
Yeah. If it's not K-Star or K-Star related, probably wasting your time. So that's the warm-ups. Transitioning from there to the Metcons, big shocker. As the season progresses, we get more and more classic CrossFit-style Metcons out there. You'll see some muscular endurance bias, and what I mean by that is you'll just see bigger sets that we're going to ask you to try to push to be unbroken a little more often, or at least give you a target number in the area of to hit per set. So, for example, if we have push jerks at 135, and I'm asking you in each round to do 30 of them or something, I'm not going to say that it's appropriate to do 5, drop, pick it up, 5, drop, pick it up. I'm going to say it's more appropriate to try to open with a 10 or a 15 or even more, and then try to hit a second big set after a short break, really pushing the boundaries on that stuff. And that applies to, again, shoulder overhead, squatting, gymnastics, bigger, longer sets, a lot of get that good burn. So that's what we're going to be finding quite often in the Metcons. Not a lot to talk about other than that. You guys know what to expect. The intervals, they will be based on the Metcons. So they'll be different on days that they're obviously in the same day. But again, the idea is the same. The difference in the interval is that you can actually push to near failure or failure often. So in a Metcon, if the time domain's 15 to 20 minutes and you need obviously to do some pacing, because if you go out in the first 3 minutes as hard as you can, the last 12 probably won't be that beneficial for you. Sometimes it is, but not on a regular basis. The intervals will allow you to do that in 2, 3, 4 minute windows to go as hard as you can, have a big chunk of rest after, start over, do it again, and it will allow you to push kind of your upper thresholds of what you can do with these movements. And again, a lot of times you'll find that it's going to be the endurance, muscular endurance bias side of things.
Are you going to encourage people to do the same thing they did in cycle 1 with the bitch work, to attack the interval stuff that's kind of the same way with the same headstrong, like
in the bitch work pieces?
I'm saying
or
like
the
in
interval
the
pieces?
interval work, like you said that you want them to push the pace. Is it like have the same feel as cycle 1's bitch work, where everyone really just absolutely killed themselves, kind of the same idea? Or
I think it's pretty close. I think it's pretty close to that. Obviously, the differences between bitch work and interval work is pretty clear. In bitch work, you're on a rower or a bike or whatever. It's a lot less skill, a lot less to think about. I mean, obviously, you still have some form to keep, but at the same time, hopefully that pattern's built to 80, 90% repetition, so you can always do that. Going as hard as you can and swinging around on a pull-up bar and doing ugly muscle-ups and push pressing instead of when you should be push jerking for speed. Things like that aren't beneficial. But yes, I mean I think your point is right on. You will be able to push as hard as you can while maintaining the things you should be doing, if that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, so you're looking for someone to go as hard as they can and try to maintain the same pace versus just like...
Not maintain the same pace, maintain the same quality and efficiency of movement, I would say.
With bigger sets, that's almost just what happens, right?
It turns into that, absolutely.
Intensity is forced through the bigger set if you actually try to stay, and if you act like a goon in your movement, good luck with your big set.
Right.
Good luck keeping going.
Yeah, I mean, the interval work...
If you act like sure, good luck.
Whoa.
Yeah. It just provides you the opportunity to maybe push a big set of chest to bar or muscle ups, whereas you wouldn't take that chance in a Metcon. Even if I told you to do it, you still wouldn't do it because you're afraid of what your final score may show. In interval work, it just provides that opportunity for you to push to failure and maybe beyond what you thought you could do and discover something. And then you get to reset. No matter if you had an epic failure or great success, you reset and you try again. You can keep making adjustments through that. So I think that's the big difference.
I just like the mentality behind it, because I always have athletes ask me at the beginning of the cycle, like, I see this piece or that piece, they kind of get a week ahead of time. How would I attack this? And that's basically what they're looking for there, Yeah, I mean, and as the season goes, obviously, I almost always prioritize hard work and intensity over anything else. In my mind, that's typically where I go. But again, with a Metcon, it is the time of year where you have to start considering what is going to work and what is not going to work when the open rolls around in 4 or 5 months, whatever it is, right? So now cycle 3, cycle 4, and then the few weeks of open prep are really where we start putting our game together, because people are pretty well conditioned coming from the off season into, cycle 1, cycle 2, and now we're building on that. So of course there'll be times where you go for broke. There'll be times where you actually should probably pace and see and be what happens
can I commit to sets of 5 on the muscle up? Can I commit to this? Can I do that? And it is the time where you need to start figuring out what your game plans will be into the future, and also test the thresholds. Again, why we want you to do big sets, so you know where you'd have to break early, or where you could push through, or where you could start slower and then pick up speed as you go. All these little parts of the game that have to develop over time again, that experience you build, and then you
I
make
think
a plan
that
from
gambling people should start taking in their pieces. It's a great time to do it. You know,
Yeah,
you're not
absolutely.
the open right now, so take your chances. I think people play it too safe, and I'm guilty of that too. Going into a workout and be like, oh, I don't know if I should jump up on the rope again. 'cause I don't know
Legless rope climbs.
I don't know if I can climb it again. Like, this is a chance for you to do that. So use the interval pieces because you know you have rest in the back end. Take a gamble every once in a while.
I mean, take a gamble a lot. That's one of the problems, is that people are really afraid. I mean, I'm just as guilty as anybody about promoting competition during training, right? Push each other really hard. So sometimes that part of really pushing each other really hard leads to fear of posting a score to somebody that's embarrassing. And some people won't let themselves get to that point, so they never take the chances they need to take to learn what they can actually do. So if there was ever a time to just lay it all out there and fail, and even if you don't want to tell the people your scores, no one gives a shit. Just like, if your ego's that broken and beat up, whatever, fine. But still take the chance on your own. And absolutely, now's the time to start gambling regularly.
Good.
Yeah, because what you're going to find, like the Metcons, you're going to see something similar. But if you, like the better athletes, like if you look at Travis and he sees a big set in a Metcon, he's just going to be like, oh, I'm going to go unbroken anyway.
Why do you think he's so good?
Exactly.
It's his only mindset.
So this is kind of for everybody else to push the envelope
Right.
to try to catch up.
I mean, we use him as an example probably more than anybody. But again, that's from cycle one, from any time. Anytime around the year, he's training. If he sees a set of 21 hang cleans, I bet I can do that unbroken, and I'm going to go for it. Like, that's the first thing he's going to do. Or 30 push jerks in a row. Yeah, I can do the first 2 rounds unbroken. It's like, is that smart? I don't care. I'm gonna.
I don't care.
He's constantly creating exponential growth, though.
Yes.
Because he's going to get better at that set of 21. And when it comes up
Right.
again, he's going to be better at it. And then he's always going to keep going.
And the
for it.
fear
and sets
disappears.
of 21 turns into sets of 40
Exactly.
and 75.
Yeah.
And it's
Now,
like,
if
oh,
we
Randy
could,
unbroken, easy.
now if
Right.
we could
Easy.
strategize a bit more in competitions,
Right.
you know, whatever.
Yep.
When I go to the website, really the only thing I'm looking for is something that I can beat Sherbin. And since I'm stronger than him, I'd really just like Gabe to talk about the lifting work, you know?
I don't even know what to say to that. So go ahead, Gabe.
So, some familiar things that are coming back with the Olympic lifting. We're going to power clean and power snatch, which is awesome for, you know, pulling accessory, really, you know, getting a good pull. But the big thing that you guys are going to be excited about is the
Super excited.
complexes are coming back.
Great for Instagram, terrible for your feelings.
Yeah,
Terrible for your life.
I think it was, 2 years ago that we introduced the complexes?
At our first camp, I remember Joe Carney doing them at lunchtime. Our first camp on the road. So that was at least 2 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
That's 2013, isn't it?
I don't
was
remember.
it? Yeah,
No,
it's-
14.
Yeah, early 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So each year, I think they progressively get harder and harder with some little tweak to them. And the first year is like, holy crap, this is complex. This is hard. This is tough. But by the end of that cycle, you learn to move around the bar, and it was effective. And then we did, doubles at them last time, and it was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that I've ever done in my life.
We've
And
done
then
triples too.
Yeah, and then by the end of that,
No, we haven't. He's lying.
people adjusted to that, and so now you're going to get to work against the clock. And I think this is an awesome tweak to this, because what we found out kind of on our own when we were lifting doing these last time was like, hey, you know what? If I don't pause between every movement in this complex, this is way easier. You put the barbell down, you want to die, but you get through it and you can move a lot more efficiently through the complex. So these complexes are going to be working against the clock. You're going to do doubles, you're going to do triples. Is that kind of the idea that you wanted, is just getting people moving more smoothly? And
Yeah, actually, that's a byproduct that I didn't even think of when I was talking about this. That's actually a really good point. Mine was more thinking of in the terms of CrossFit is nearing the end of testing their 1 rep maxes regularly, and it's always testing 70, 80, 90 plus % under fatigue for multiple reps now. So it's a matter of not necessarily, I mean, maybe it will be against the clock. We haven't really laid out the exact details yet as far as like if it's a certain amount, like in a window of time, or if it's more like the rest is dictated. So you get hit a double, and then you only get 2 minutes off before you hit another double, whatever it is. But there'll be some time element in there that'll force somebody to not be fresh. They can't sit around and be fresh when they go hit their next complex or next set. And that may lead to exactly what you're talking about, being smoother with a barbell, having to move faster, especially if you're doing X amount of sets in a window, or you just want to get it over with because the time under tension sucks and you want that rest to come sooner. So it's not 100% ironed out in that way yet, but yeah, it's testing these movements, these complexes under fatigue more often, so that again, when you get tested at regionals at the games or even in the open with the heavy squat cleans in the middle of a 20-minute workout,
You get rewarded for efficiency. That's what it's all
absolutely.
about. So.
And being able to move the weight, under fatigue. It doesn't count for anything anymore if you're not used to that, and you can't do that. So there's definitely a time and a place for both the lifts on their own, just to work on that strength, and then to really push the intensity and be able to lift heavy weights over and over again. I mean, that's really what CrossFit is, like huge loads, long distance, right? And so short amount of time.
Huge loads.
So yeah, you'll be forced to move well on those, and it just puts it a little bit more applicable to our sport. So that's going to be fun. Get ready for that. And then the other thing that we're going to do, there's still going to be some percentage work. In your percentage work, though, you're going to have some. Your rest is going to be monostructural rest, and this is something that is a really cool topic that I discussed with Seth. It's just kind of a deviation from the norm of, hey, you want to get better at Olympic lifting, you're going to do percentage work, it's a linear progression. That makes sense, and that makes sense at certain times of the year. But now that we're blending things into the, a little bit more what our sport is going to ask of, it's going to be able to test a couple different, energy systems, a couple different things at the same time. So you want to talk a little bit more about kind of how you thought this.
Yeah, this is sort of using everybody as a guinea pig here. It's only 1 day a week, but instead of just allowing you to sit on the blocks and rest between sets again, like you will be able to do in the complex work, even though you'll have
be forced to.
less. Yeah. This time we're going to have you just jog or row really slow or bike really slow a certain distance. That will be your rest. So once you finish your set, you might sit on a bike and pedal a 2K over the course of 4 minutes slowly and just kind of let things happen. So let the recovery in one system happen while you're using another. Because they're sort of on opposite ends of the spectrum as far as the way science looks at them today and as far as the way that we're using our energy. So I want to see how fast and how efficient people can be over a long period of time with switching energy systems on demand. And so the first time you do this, you may be like nearly walking, like just shuffling your feet for an 800. That might be your rest, is an 800 between your set. And it's a shuffle to move and come back. You set up, you lift again, you shuffle back out the door. But eventually you might get really comfortable with that, and it turns into a jog, and then it turns into just like a Metcon style pace where you're actually hitting the percentages that you would hit normally, but you can bury a run or a row or a bike ride in between them with very little effect to you at all. And eventually I want to see how tight we can pull these together and how fatigued you can really be and how many other elements you can really mix into your game with hitting the percentages we'd want you to hit just during a weightlifting session. And I don't know if it'll ever get to the point where it's the same, but I bet as CrossFitters start to kind of evolve, I bet it can get really close. And again, to me, that's what matters in the sport, is being able to mix more things more often. And I don't know how this is going to go. We've done stuff like this with games and regionals prep. It's basically just heavy intervals, but we've usually assigned a weight and not so much a percentage. So it'll be very individualized based on you guys' percentages. And it's a 1 day a week thing, so you'll have plenty of opportunities to power snatch, power clean. The complex work is not that much different than we've done in the past. You just have to be willing to really focus in a shorter window of time. And this will be sort of really interesting. So please post to the blog, and we'll be paying attention to how the lifts go. So, because we'll also tweak percentages based on what we see for results from our best and our not so best, whatever that means. So
not so best.
I've already started testing this in a couple of my athletes that I thought it would really benefit from it, and I think it's a good kind of forward thinking too many times people think, oh, it's 1 rep max this, 1 rep max that, and they think that if they improve just their 1 rep max, then everything else is going to improve. But then when you look at it, and they're asked to move relatively high percentages of their 1 rep max under fatigue or for multiple reps, they struggle with that. And it's like, hey, I clean and jerk 415, but I couldn't clear the clean and jerk ladder at so and so, like,
right.
Oh, because you had to do it under time and a little fatigue, and oh wait, you were tested after you did a Metcon or a run or whatever. So I like that.
Well, I mean, linear progression works regardless of what we're talking about, whether energy system, movement, whatever. So if the person does take the prescription properly and try to build over the course of time, you're taking the strength principle and applying it to monostructural. Right. And in that time, at camp, Seth talks about, trying to get as many experiences as possible. You will make physical and mental adaptations
100%
during that. And that, again, that's our sport. That's the blend there. That's, where everything is trending towards: training, nutrition, recovery, whatever. So,
yeah.
That stuff's really old too. Like Glassman's talked about that 10 years ago. You need to blur the lines between weightlifting and cardio movements. That needs to happen. So, I mean, for it to be like groundbreaking for someone, it's kind of like, if you dig back in those old articles, you can see that those things occurred way long ago.
It's sort of freaky, like it's sort of like our weird Bible. You go back and it's like written in scripture, and it's like, fuck, I thought I invented that. Nope, Glassman thought of it like 20 years ago. It's like, oh. I
was just sitting here thinking about that. As you said that, I'm like, I recently read the that vault they have on the CrossFit Journal. It's like, I just literally just read this, blowing the distinction. So, cool that we're putting it in.
It just shows you. It shows you how forward thinking he was when he was putting things together way back in the day, and starting to really, without like putting the hard science and blood tests behind it, like really talking about how this would happen eventually and the blend would happen. And people now, I think our sport, like the top coaches, are headed in the wrong direction. I think they're running away from the goal. Like they're all going specialize this, specialize that, specialize that. You couldn't be further off from what we do as a sport by separating everything. I mean, it's
but I think the athletes are dictating that because they're starting to be successful enough to where they can handle something like this and really, improve a lot on that. I don't know that necessarily was the case early on when people were just really getting comfortable learning how to lift and move. Technique was not.
But early on, they never separated things because early on, all you did was CrossFit.
Right.
And amazing how fit people got by just doing CrossFit.
I mean, I think back in the day, we drew from other disciplines, but at the same time, we always went back to doing CrossFit. We didn't say, the gymnast does the muscle up this way, so we need to do the muscle up this way. I mean, personally, I think that we learned from other disciplines, but we didn't say this is the only way you can do it kind of thing.
Again, it sounds corny, but Glassman in the early HQ was actually taking the best from different fields and rejecting the worst and just not talking about it. And we just assume like, oh, they talk to weightlifters. Like we must go learn from Olympic weightlifters. Oh, gymnasts were used. Glassman was a gymnast. We must go learn from gymnasts. No, just take a couple principles from what they do and apply them to its own sport and see what happens. Don't go practice something else that's only a small part and not even that useful in the big picture sport that you're doing. So it's crazy when I see, I don't know, I'm not going to go off on a tangent. I just see shit that I just am confused by. Like it doesn't mesh with my way of thinking whatsoever. And I'm just like, either I'm really far off and I'm fucking going crazy, or like everybody else is obsessed with this new idea of taking a specialty coach and running in that direction. And
I mean, our athletes
doesn't
are
make sense
terrible,
to me.
so it must be that.
A lot of it's revenue driven, though, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it is.
You're trying to make money for your business, and if we already know the formula, what magical formula are you going to put out there? If we already know what works, we got to sell something new. We got to change the game. Like I can definitely tell that that's a part of it.
I think you're right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely getting more commercialized, and the amount of seminars, specialty seminars now popping up everywhere are pretty astonishing. So, okay. Sorry about that, bro.
So you got a lot more than you bargained for on the Olympic lifting, but hopefully that provides some kind of insight to thoughts going into this. The lifting Texas method is back for squats, which is awesome. I love this. Is my favorite thing, I think. It's when this is the coolest part because you just get to start moving pretty close to your 1 rep max for sets of 5.
Every person, every year. It's
insane.
It is.
It's awesome, and this is actually, I mean, this is the one thing that I see that directly, like it, I can almost feel it directly translating to strength in Metcons. Like this is like, oh, hey, I'm stronger 5x5 squat. I go over and it's like, oh, front squat 225, easy, no problem. It like transfers to
Yeah.
to Metcons.
That shit
so
is a
much.
religious experience. The 5x5 at 90,
is.
like
It is.
especially if it's like hot out or I don't know, man. That shit's hard,
Do you-
really hard.
I mean, in your opinion, do you think that a 5-rep max is significantly more taxing on your CNS, well, in both a good and negative way, depending on how you're looking at it, than going for 1 reps or 2 reps? Because of the demand it takes and the percentage you're at to be able to hit 5?
That's
Because
a great question. I think that you know we're all aware of the phenomenon of your mind has a certain amount of resources like your body does,
Right.
Theoretically. And I think what it takes mentally, focus-wise, to hit those 5 reps is completely different. And I think that if you have to use those resources, you're just being drained. So we don't know, you
Yep.
know, what really happens in terms of micro tears in your fibers of your muscles from a
Right.
1 to a 5, but the level of focus that it takes is incredible. And I think because it takes that much focus, people are so much better at that 5-rep max than the 1. Because you take that 1 out and it's almost like, boing, did I get it? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. That
Right.
5-rep, no one takes the bar out that way. No one approaches it with that mentality. And I just think because it takes so much focus to get through those 5 reps, that it just makes this different kind of adaptation.
it's a really interesting way to think
I mean,
about
the
it.
other thing too is that you go for the 5-rep and nobody misses it on the first rep. Like you don't pull it out of
Right.
the bar and you don't miss in the first rep. So you usually get 3 to 4 good reps out of it, and then the 5th rep, you know, is usually where people may or may not hit it. So you already got a really good, you know.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I
You're
like it.
working on
I
the
like
squat
it when
there.
someone grinds
Yeah.
out that 4th rep, like it looks like they have no chance, and the 5th's easy because they
Yep.
can like see
Yep.
the light at
That's
the end of
weird.
the tunnel. Like it's
a
not going to
mental game,
happen.
yeah.
And I also think it's funny that, you know, thanks Mark Ripito for this. Sorry that you fucking hate CrossFit. No one cares. But this is a great squat program.
It
So we're
is.
going to keep stealing it over and over.
Yeah.
Cool. So
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, bro.
what else do we have on lifting? So you're going to have deadlifts back in the lifting. You're going to kind of have a little bit of both heavy deadlifts and bigger sets of deadlifts. So this is something that will transition pretty well into, you know, getting into the season. So I know historically we've, you know, made a point to start focusing a little bit earlier on this in the strength because I think, you know, one season we kind of missed it a little bit with our athletes. So
Yeah,
it's back in.
It was 2013, okay? It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's all good.
with the deadlifts, this cycle, I just I was actually nervous about. I mean, people's deadlifts are going off the charts these days. They're just so ridiculous, and even compared to their squats, they're still so ridiculous. They're not leveling out quite yet, and so to have people pull even weekly with all the other lifting we just talked about, really focus on super heavy deadlifts every week, was just like, probably get a little more bang for your buck by doing it maybe bi-weekly, so 3 times in the cycle, and then, or maybe even only twice, and then 3 times hitting, you know, 3 to 5 sets of 12 to 15 reps. When, you know, again, talking about the open or regionals, I know they only did 7 at 405, but they could easily come back and say, you know, 5 sets of 15 at 315 or 365 or something crazy next year, or even in 2 years. So it's time to just start putting the percentages together with bigger sets. And again, we talk about muscular endurance in the cycle. I thought it was just a good balance. So that's
Love
the
it.
direction.
Cool, and then you're going to be doing some push jerks as well. So we've progressed from strict press to, you know, push press, and now we're in the 3rd cycle here. We're going to go with push jerk, which is definitely, you know, in my opinion, the biggest, you know, translates biggest to our sport. That's what you're going to be
I
asked
need
to
to
do.
put my
Yeah.
movement Nazi plea into this. There's a couple of reasons why we do that progression. Obviously, when you do the strict press and then you do the push press and you do the push jerk, you are creating a stronger position, right? We're trying to get you guys stronger there. But it's also slowly pushing you through so that your movement stays proper as we go through. And strength does play a part in that. But when we get this big heave off of the shoulder, and then now we have to drop under it, so many people break at the midline and ruin all of the hard work that they've done, with all of these holds that we do, with all of the strength work that we do. And people think that they're weak overhead. But what we find is every single person either has that movement issue where they break in the middle or they don't have shoulder flexibility. We have no people that were just like, geez, you were born with weak shoulders. We always find a reason for that. And this applies to every single athlete. It applies directly to Travis Williams. If you watched Travis last year in Strict Nate and you saw his arm wing out every rep and then come back in, that's because he physically can't get to this position. His shoulders are so tight. Now, tight is strong, so it helps him in a lot of places. But when he has to keep his rib cage down and he's in that position, it's almost impossible for him to do. Now, he's thought forever that he wasn't strong enough to put this weight overhead. Who the fuck believes that Travis isn't strong enough to do anything?
Jerks 400.
Right.
He can jerk 400.
Exactly. So
That's silly.
that movement pattern, whether it's his shoulder flexibility or it's just, hey, I fixed my shoulder flexibility, but I'm still moving like shit. Those are the two things. So please film them from the side. Make sure you either don't have a shirt on or your shirt's tight enough so that you can see what's going on. And when that time happens between when the bar leaves your shoulder and when you catch it, is your rib cage stay down. Nice neutral spine. Just please, guys.
There you go. There's the plea. I mean, you
please.
can listen to it or ignore it and be a jabroni. What we got left? That's it.
No, man. Sherb's coming.
Wow, for
that's
Gabe,
it
I
for
mean.
Gabe. That's
Yeah.
it for Gabe. Sherb's coming in hot with, I'd say, probably his favorite and his least favorite. He crushes bitch work. He goes all out. He's killed the bitch over the last few years that we've
So
known
much
him
in
here.
me.
He was such a little bitch when we started, and now he's the bitch work king, basically.
Pretty much.
Sure.
Accessory work, my goodness. He's the slowest sled pusher I've ever
What?
seen. Every time
Bro, I'm the
we
best
go,
at holds, though.
Well, fuck you. Every time we go to do holds, he wants to do handstand holds because he's good at them. Lunge holds, he's trembling.
Those are the worst.
Did you say lunch holds? He eats them too fast. It's not even difficult.
Can't hold those in.
He looks like Tyrone Biggums when he's shaking. He's picking up the bus. That's what he looks like. 10 seconds into a lunch hold. He's holding his lunch. We're telling him he can't eat it, and he's just shaking. So why don't you talk to us about your favorite and least favorite things?
All right, so we'll start with bitch work. It's more of the same. I mean, the biggest thing I saw looking at the outline for the cycle is that we're going to mix monostructure elements. So you have a row followed by a ski or a bike followed by a run or something just to make one of the bitch work parts harder. And you'll notice that sometimes I flip-flop back and forth so that maybe we're pre-fatiguing the bike or pre-fatiguing the rower. But we're also going to add, all right, now do a set of muscle-ups or do a set of handstand push-ups or do a set of pistols just to make sure that you're hammering home, getting your heart rate up and being able to do those same movements efficiently under fatigue. I mean, from what I see, it's the same as last cycle. More or less.
So if you already know what bitch work is, and he knows what, and everybody knows it, Donald Trump, why don't you give them some advice? If you're so cool and so good at bitch work, why don't you fucking tell them
You're
what to do?
Believe me.
You're hyping me up too much in this. It's not that good. I mean, the biggest thing I think about this time of year, and you were talking about earlier with the interval work, is testing yourself early on, right? It's good to see how hard you can go and still do a set of 10 strict handstand push-ups or a set of 25 chest-to-bar pull-ups, which I think I saw later on this cycle.
What?
So, yeah, it's crazy.
sassy.
The biggest thing is taking things head on and not taking it for granted. Like, oh, I have 15 chest-to-bar pull-ups at the end. I better row really, really slow so I can do them all. You're not going to get any better. That's what we were talking about earlier with Travis. If he goes into it headstrong and tries to go as hard as he can, tries to row at 115, 500, and then do 30 chest-to-bar pull-ups, he's going to try it. He probably will fail, but he's getting a lot better for it. So way you should attack this is going head first into it.
I think that it's good that you said that because I've actually watched that happen firsthand with you and your training, and I know that it works. And I know that he's speaking from experience because when it used to be anything with over 10 chest-to-bar pull-ups in it that had some element in front of it, he's like, "Yep, I'm breaking them up. The max set I can do is 7 and keep moving, whatever."
They're hard.
And then he actually forced himself to doing exactly what he's talking about, and he's made a ton of progress in that. So. He speaks from experience, and we see it with all our athletes. So
I don't compliment people often, but your chest to bar actually exists. Like they're a thing now.
I've seen
They
him
didn't
do
used to
multiple
be.
sets of 15.
Yeah. A lot of big
multiple
sets
rounds.
in workouts, yeah, that didn't used to happen, so they exist.
So much of what's happening with him, what's happening with people all over the world is our guys don't compare lift numbers anymore. They don't compare how heavy was your sled. It's always what were your interval times,
Right.
what was your Metcon time, and it's been this huge change. And what happens is someone will get immersed into this culture. You know, maybe they sign up for remote coaching and they get into a group with Travis Williams, and they want to know, you know, oh my God, you know, how did you make me so much better? And it's like, that's not what it is. It's that culture has been created. So for you guys out there that maybe aren't in one of those groups, that you have your own group, stop comparing lift numbers. You know, that's more or less accessory for CrossFit.
It's well and fine, but it's not what CrossFit
Yeah,
is.
no, we certainly don't give a shit. Travis doesn't give a shit. And create that culture within your gym, within your Facebook group of people all over the world. However you guys try to create that culture of, haha, bitch, my round took 25 seconds, yours took 46 seconds, and you will get better because you will care every time. You won't have that, like, there's 10 intervals and that number 7's like 3 times as long. You just fucking gave up. Like, it just goes away.
The best will bring everybody else with them, because one of the major stopping points for athletes is they're not quite sure what they're capable of or what's possible in general. When you compare yourself regularly in Metcons, intervals, bitch work to people significantly better than you, you start to see that there's a clear amount of progress that you can make and that you can work towards. Without seeing what's possible or what should be where you're at, you have no idea what you're working towards. So when you maybe crack the top 100 in the open and then you start comparing Metcon scores with Jordan Cook, like, you go, holy shit, I'm nobody. Like, I was happy to crack the top 100, but I haven't even really started on what's going to make all the big difference. And you'd be amazed how fast you can close the gaps on certain things by comparing with those people, listening to what those people have to say, and just they'll take you with them if you stay with them. If you train with them, if you live that culture that Drew's talking about, they will elevate your game like
You just can't
effortlessly.
You just can't be reluctant to compete.
On their
You
end.
have to be willing to compete every single day.
Absolutely.
Because that's our sport. You can't go into the open and not compare yourself to everybody else because, sorry, that's what the sport is. If you don't compare and don't try to get better and chase people ahead of you, you aren't going to catch them.
You're going to always fight for the gold standard. And if the gold standard's just the best guy in your affiliate, what the fuck are you doing? You're not
There's
even
always someone
training.
better.
Yeah, I mean, step outside and take a look at some of the other scores going on. That's why the online blog works, and that's why social media is so important as far as like the groups go, because they can actually regularly see what's going on. If you're just stuck in your little bubble in your gym, you have no idea what's even possible out there. You've seen the games, but you're not doing those workouts, so you can't compare your fitness against them. You have to
And
see
you
it
aren't
on a
doing it at the
daily
same
basis.
time. You could do those workouts
Right.
later down the road, but they don't mean anything then.
Exactly. So, I mean, there we go. Another tangent.
So, sorry. It's really easy, though.
I know.
It's really easy.
Jeez.
I guess anything else to add about bitch work?
Go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did want to say something about the multiple mono structural elements together. I really like that because I think that you can find, I can go really hard on the bike sucks, but then I can get off the bike and not necessarily feel fresh, but have a newfound kind of like go in you to go onto the
It's
row
like the
or
chipper
whatever.
feeling when
Yeah.
you're just like, oh,
I
cool.
couldn't
new
do any more of
movement.
those, but now you're moving.
So I think that that actually helps people progress a lot because you, if it was 15 more calories on the bike, you would not do. You just slow down and just, oh, this sucks. But you get off, you go to the rower, and it's like, oh, I can go ham on this too. Like,
And even with that and with like the bitch gymnastics, it only sucks when you stop. So if you
Right.
jumped right off the bike and literally turned around and jumped up the pull-up bar and held on until you had to come off, it wouldn't hurt while you're doing pull-ups.
Outrun the suck, yeah.
Yeah, the second you come down, it'll feel like someone hit you in the chest with a sledgehammer and you'll need a break. But if you continue to work, it won't quite suck until it's over. So use that to your advantage. If you get off the bike and take 20 seconds to walk from the bike over to your pull-up bar, you will be in a panic mode before you ever jump up there, and you will not get the stimulus we're looking for. So, I mean, everyone's experienced that. Just the second you stop, it hurts. When you keep going, it's fine, I guess.
All right.
Something like that.
So last but not least, accessory work. We kind of touched on it earlier, but first thing's gonna be sled work. You know, we've found great success with our athletes building their engines that way, both with the sprint stuff and more of the endurance with the longer, heavier, or the longer but lighter pieces. So you'll see more of that, I assume. More drags, more pushes. as a way of
Sprinkling
just,
a little everything, right?
yeah, I
Why
mean,
not?
the sled works great. It's a way of attacking a weakness a different way. Putting yourself under tension for a long, slow push is a really good way to get strong. If you're not someone that has a great strength background, you're looking to get a better squat, go push a heavy sled.
I really can't think of another piece of equipment that can load you for that length of time under that much stress.
And this goes kind of like just back like the bitch worker. You just said, like, when you push a sled, it's not bad while you're driving, but as soon as you stop, it's like
Right.
someone pulled the cable out from underneath your legs. Like, what just happened? And now I'm
Someone
dying.
stabbed my ass cheeks.
Ass stabber. All right.
They used
So,
to call me in high school.
yeah, stabber. All right. After that, we got some holds. We were touching on earlier. Some wall sits, handstand holds, lunge holds, overhead hold, maybe with dumbbells or with a plate.
Exactly.
Or just something unique to hold it overhead. Work on that midline stability, get back to those
Gabe
push
talked
jerks.
about the guy who can clean and jerk 415, but then struggles with, maybe a little bit lighter weight for more reps. From an accessory standpoint, I understand, we're more focused on the CrossFit side, but from an accessory standpoint, this takes those slow, supportive muscles and brings them around to help the big muscles. So if you're that athlete that came from football, baseball, basketball, whatever, the short explosive stuff, when you just like, man, my one rep max front squat is awesome, but why can't I, do pennies? Doing these types of holds will create that connective tissue and create the smaller muscles to be able to get you guys to where you need to be from a muscular standpoint. Hopefully energy systems wise, we've already got you covered, but this stuff works really well for a lot of people.
I like it all for just the efficiency of movement. Like, you're talking about a push jerk, learning what an active shoulder is, learning what those positions are. Because if you try to hold a handstand position on the wall and you're not active, you're going to break, and then all of a sudden you can't do those handstand push-ups in the open because you haven't learned that body awareness of what's fully extended and engaged and what's kind of relaxed and not ideal. The last thing would just be some high rep gymnastics. Assume getting better at toes to bar, bigger sets, chest to bars.
Yeah, it's like basically I'll set a rep scheme and then put somewhat of a clock to it or rest period to it for bigger sets. You work on the endurance, but also it's a way to actually practice the skill still, because a lot of people should spend time still practicing the specific skills. And with a set amount of reps and a set amount of rest or against a clock, you will still have some fatigue, so you get some experience that way, but also you don't have to focus on any other movements. You can just focus on that one gymnastics movement.
It's like dialing back to cycle one for those who need more practice in these moves, but now adding a little bit of a time element, so it's a little bit more challenging than it was in cycle one. So those of you like cycle one and got better at chest to bar, pull-ups, or toes to bar, now you get a chance to practice them some more, but now a little bit of fatigue, clock is set, it's making it more like the open or any other competition you're going to do.
And at this point in the year, like sets of 20 toes to bar for a competitor looking to go somewhere need to be able to be repeated. Like 20 seems like, what are you talking about? But that's where we're at right now. Sets of 10 muscle ups or even 8 to 12 now range, that has to be repeated for sets.
Yeah,
you have to be able to do that as a guy, at least for the muscle ups.
agree.
And the girls are 6 to 10 right now. That you have to be able to repeat those to be really successful. And you can name numbers with all sorts of reps and movements and whatever. So yeah.
I couldn't agree more. So, it's a good chance to practice those things under fatigue. So good for the cycle.
To all you warriors out there who have made it 50 minutes in with us, we thank you very much. There were some ramblings in there, but I think the rambling portion of it might have been the deepest, most kind of informational we've gotten. So if you did make it, I think you just got the best content that we've put out podcast.
Now, if you
just
ask
stand
any
up
questions
here
on
and
the
say,
blog.
warm up, midline, interval, big sets. You guys kind of know what's going on with our website right now, and we like to give you that piece of things. But the anecdotal stuff, I think, sprinkled in there is kind of the point of the podcast, right?
Better learn your nickname too, or butt stabber.
Butt stabber.
In case you missed that, butt stabber.
In case you missed that. So if you guys want to subscribe to this podcast, you subscribe on the YouTube channel or the iTunes. So if you guys are driving around in your car and you want to listen to it, it's a little bit longer form, so maybe you don't want to stare at our ugly mugs for
Long car ride.
for 50 minutes. You can do that there. Remember the new web address to the store. The new store is sharpentheaxeco.com. From Misfit Athletics HQ, we're signing out.
Peace.
See you guys.